So the goal of today is to finish all the discussion about the UI. I will talk about the main components widget we'll be using. Last time I already showed you some of the text view, edit text, and we're going to also talk about the buttons, image view, those things, very basic. And then the second half of the lecture today will cover a little bit more complicated view, which is also more useful view. We call it adapter-based views. So the typical example would be the list view. All right, that's probably the most useful UI widget in Android. You can do a lot of things with list view, but there are other type of view which based on the same idea. All right, and also we'll talk about some of the useful libraries for you to use to help you to build your UI system, your code in a better way. But anyway, after today, you should be able to implement most of the UI and workflow and everything. And then next week, we'll talk about networking and communication. So basically, next week, hopefully your app will start to be able to send requests to the servers. We'll show you how to use the database, like Firebase, things like that, and so that your app will be really a mobile app that has a backend support. All right, so let's take a look at the UI components here. Now, last time we talked about the text view, we talked about edit text. All right, so let me come back to this code right here, and I want to run this so that you still remember what we did last time. All right, I know it's a kind of a really tough time to have this class. All right, so you probably have worked the whole day, or you probably spent a couple hours to drive here. Okay, so me too. So it's kind of tired, and also later on you'll be hungry. So if you get tired, feel free to take a break, take a nap, which is fun. Or if you feel it's hard to focus, to listen, do your coding. That's totally works. All right, I'm gonna put the video here, but the key is I want you to really focus on your own application. All right, you don't have to follow the same pace as I'm giving you all this, but whatever you find useful, do it. Yes.
These are using the same project you worked on last time.
Yes. So this is the one. If you remember, I started a very simple one last time, so I'm not sure if you're talking about this. I only have a text view and edit text and auxiliary button. This one, yeah. So I'm going to continue this one. All right. So we talk about this is the text view. Pretty easy. The main method you will be using is set text. For the string, you can change it. And then this is the edit text. You can type anything, and if you want to grab the content, you basically call get text. Right, so that's one you will be using. So if I click on this button, and we're going to change this text view based on the things you type here. All right, so I'm going to delete, and then click on this button again, and then you will see the same effect. Now there's one more interesting about edit text. All right, so the edit text, I remember if you do edit text dot. All right, so as you can see, the first get text and set text, that's probably the most useful method or most commonly used method for this widget. And there's one more thing. All right, I saw it will be show up at the top, but it's not. I'm going to tell you. So it's called a set add. Let me try add. Yes, this one here. I remember it used to be one of the highlighting method, but for some reason, maybe it's not really that common. But if you want to watch the text changes, right, this is something you can do. What would be a good example? Think about there is a very common feature today when you create an account and when you type your password. Now nowadays they all require the crazy complicated password, uppercase, numbers, special characters, and at the end you can't even remember your own password. So, but think about you are typing. Remember, they give you the list of the criteria, right? So number, uppercase, those things. Then as you're typing, if you satisfy some of those features, then they're going to have a check mark, right? So in order to do that, you have to basically implement a way to watch what users are typing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Right? So let me show you an example. Let's do this. All right, so that would be a very cool example to show. So coming back here, all right, this is what I would do. I'm gonna make this one as a kind of a thing for me to type the username and password. Let's do the password. All right. For the password, I have some requirements below. All right. So let me add those. So I'm gonna add some text view. This one is must be 8 characters. Greater than must be a list, which is text. All right, so that's one. And then I can make a color. For example, this one will be red in the beginning. All right, so color Android color red. All right, and then I can also do the next one, which will be must contain and at least one uppercase letter. All right, and then let's do one more. Must contain at least one number. All right, just 3 requirements here. All right. So later on, as you're typing, I want to see if you satisfy some of the requirements. I'm going to turn those into green. All right. So, but for here, we're going to start from the red. I'm going to give ID because I need to change it later. So add an ID. So this is the require 1 text view. This is require 2, requirement 2, and then this is requirement number 3. All right, and this is too close to the screen. All right, so I'm going to add some margins, and I can do the margin for the whole parent. So for the container, so margin left goes with 10 dp. All right, so that looks a little better. And then I might want to add the same thing for the right. So this one, instead of message, I'm going to change it to password. All right. Or maybe I just add another for username. So that it looks just like sign up, little demo. All right. And this button I'm going to call it submit. All right. And also, to make it a little bit better, add a margin top, 20 dp, and then center this. Layout gravity. I just want to, repeat some of those so that you don't forget about those. All right. And I always like to match the parent so that the button is bigger, it's easier for you to click. All right. Just you can always play around with all the UI parameters. I just want to show all of this so that there's a common property you need to configure. All right. So right now here, and I also showed you for the password, if you want, you can type, you can hide it, right? So you can do a input type, which is password, text password. All right, so let's try this again. Now if I run this app, oh, something is wrong. Let me see. This. And I now want to get rid of this line. All right, so that's the username, and then here is the password. All right, so later on, as I'm typing the password, once I satisfy some of this condition, it's going to turn that condition into green. All right, so that's the idea on the implement. Let's see how to do it. In order to do that, I want to do it real time. Like as I'm typing, once I get over 8 characters, I want this one to turn green. I don't want to check it until I'm done. That's not like a good user experience. All right. So how do I do it? I have to watch anytime when user type a new character or make a change. So how can we do it? Edit text provide us a listener for us to listen that event. So if you do add text changed listener, that's a event you can capture. So you can build a event listener inside. And if you don't know how to do it, remember, do the same thing. New space, control space. It's going to figure out the right interface for you to use. I think this one here. Sorry, no. It's supposed to give us the right one. I think it's this one. For some reason, why it's not giving us that one? It's text watcher. Okay, because if you look at this one here, it's actually need a text watcher. So yeah, for some reason it's not really smart, but you need to find out that text watcher and then give a implementation. So the text watcher is the interface. It allows you to do capture 3 events: before the text got changed, when the text is changed, and after the text is changed. All right, so 3 points, which means if I start to press my keyboard and then type a character, right before that typing take effect, this method will be called. And then during that process, this method will be called. And after I'm done, release my keyboard, this method will be called. All right. So you do not always need to use all of this. Most importantly, probably is this one. After the text is changed, this one allows you to know it and then to know what the text is. So right now, if I use this one, so let's check it. So I'm going to do a log message here. Editable dot get text to string. That's going to show what's the current. Actually, it might show you the changed one. So let's see what it gives us. All right, I'm going to run this again. I'm going to open my logcat. All right, so this one I'm typing, nothing happens. But this one now has a listener. Once I start to type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as you can see, every time when I tap, I can actually grab the current text from that edit text. Knowing that text is easy because you can always get it from here. But then the important thing is the listener knows when you're typing. Or when you delete, same thing. All right. So with that, you can just build that feature. All right, let's try. So whenever you got a change, I'm going to check some of this condition. The first one is really easy. If it's longer than 8, so I need to first get the current password. So if the password dot size length is greater than 8, greater or equal than 8, all right, I'm going to change that first text view into green. So I need to grab those instances. So let me create those. So text view, I have requirement 1 text view, 3, 2. So I need to do the same thing here. We need to get the reference and initialize those. 3, 2, and then use ID. Require 1, requirement 2, requirement 3. All right. So now you have the reference. So from here I can change it. So for example, here requirement 1 text view set text color will be it needs to provide an integer. So which is the resource. Let me think about it. What's the best way to do it? Let's see. All right. So let's like here I don't know what to pass, right? So the text color, if you see the method here, you can either do a integer or color state list. You can try it. Okay, I don't know what this color state text list is, but this one may have some of the method like this to give you the color. But again, I'm not quite sure. So two things you can do. One is you can go ahead and look at the Java doc. All right, so go back here, Android. If you just search this method, I'm going to look at that later. But then this is the actual official Java doc for this method. And then if you check this method here, so it talks about the integer. So int is a color value in the form of this. All right. Do not pass a resource ID. So this one should be that kind of a that kind of format. So you still don't get it. So if that's the case, we might be able to do this. So we can do this. All right. So that might work. So let's try it based on this. But another way is you don't have to look at the official doc. If you Google like how to set the color in code, and by program, it will find you give you the answer. So you can set like color.red. That seems to be a very good one. Or color.rgb this value, color.parseColor. So that seems to be the best way. So I'm going to do this. Color.green. All right. So let's try it. So now I'm going to run my app. All right, so username and then password, okay? I'm gonna type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, you see it? The moment you got 8, this one is turning into green. But of course, we also need to say that if you get it back to 8, and then you have to change it back. So very easy. Else, this one goes to red. All right, so let's try this again. Password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then delete and coming back. But I'm using a different red, so that's a problem. All right, but you got the idea. And what about the other two? Also, let's check the other two. So the second one is must have one uppercase letter. I'm going to use a naive way to search it, okay? So the best way probably is to use a regular expression. Have you used regular expression? You should learn that in Automata 3.11. Is that the course? Yeah. Write a very smart way to represent your string contains certain kind of uppercase. That's one way. But I'm going to do the naive way, okay? So I'm going to set some kind of Boolean value has uppercase. I'm going to just iterate the whole string. All right, so I think I can do. I think I can do this, right? Maybe this, yeah. So basically, iterate every single character, and then if how do I know the character C is uppercase? ASCII value. All right. What's the ASCII value for it? To check. Capital A. What's that? 65. Yeah, that is correct. What if you don't remember that? Not sure you know it, but I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, that also works. Or yeah, or you can just do this. Right? You probably don't know you can do this, but you can. All right. So if that's in the range, then this one will become true, and then you can just break. All right. So as long as you have one uppercase, you're good. So if has uppercase, so your second requirement will turn green. Otherwise, turn right. All right, third requirement is numbers. Well, same thing. So you can do exactly the same thing here. Has number equal to false, right? And password to array. If C is greater than this, and C is less than equal than 9, right? And then has number turned to be true, and we're going to break it. So if you have number, so we're going to turn this into green, otherwise turn that into red. Alright, so let's try it. Alright, this is how I'm going to sign up with my email and then password. Alright, so I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Why the uppercase shows up? Oh, yeah, because this one I didn't change it. So uppercase is requirement 2, and then yeah, the number is requirement 3. That's why. Yeah. Sorry. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Since I'm started typing a number, the third requirement is satisfied. And once I pass 8, that works. And I start to type lowercase, doesn't work. When I start to type uppercase, then it works. All right, and then once you delete, then you're gonna miss some of the requirements. All right, so that's how this type of features is implemented. But then it relies on, for the edit bot, you can actually add this text change listener. All right, pretty useful. So sometimes if you want to do complicated things on user's editing, you might want to think about something like this. All right, so that is called edit text. Any questions? Buttons, I don't want to talk too much. Pretty much the only thing you will do is this. Set quick listener and on quick. All right. And then you also have like a double click those. I can't remember how to do it, but let's check this. Okay, Android button double. Well, I don't think you will double click on button, but let's just see if there's anything you can do. Double click for button in Android. Yeah, this is more about Android gesture. So let me see. Gesture detection. Okay. So this is a totally different way. So I don't think that's part of the button. But you know, that's a bad example. I don't know why I was talking about that. But you rarely double tap a button. You probably will double tap other things. But we'll talk about that later on when we start to talk about Android gesture detection. All right. But for button, I'm just trying to think about what else we normally do from the code. That's pretty much it. All right, so on clicking, that's the only thing you will need. You rarely need to change the button to some other things. Well, oh yes, now I remember. One thing is you can change the button to be clickable or not by setting it enabled or not enabled. So for example, this one here. So only if you satisfy all the requirements, then your button could be click and submit. That means in the beginning, I want to disable the button. So the way to do it is, well, let's put this one first. All right, so let's put the button reference. And then from now on, we'll always put those declarations at the class level. All right, so in the beginning, I want to put this button to be disabled. So I'm going to do set enabled to be false. So it's not enabled. So I'm going to run this. All right, so right now the button is not clickable. All right, so this is pretty useful. You will need this. And then if you got all the conditions satisfied, all right, so we probably also need another boolean value. Is longer than 8. Alright, so at the very end, you have to say that if this one is longer than 8 and has number and has uppercase, well, that's great. We're going to turn our button back to enable. Alright, so let's try this one more time. So set enable, it works for all the UI widget, not just for the button, but the button is normally the one that you will need to set it. Alright, username, password. Alright, so the moment I satisfy all the 3 conditions, this button is clickable. Right, otherwise you can't. Oh yeah, I need an else statement, sorry. Otherwise, that's not enabled. Alright, so I'm going to not show that again. The set enable, that's probably another one you will need very often for buttons. Alright, so I'm not going to talk too much. You also have image button. So image button means that you can actually put image on top of your button. So go back to the designer here. I can do a image button here. And I can give a text. Yeah, so for image button, you do not normally give a text. You give a source of the image. Right, so I don't know if we have any for the image. So what would be a good example? Let's try to find a little icon here. Search icon. For the image, you have to be careful. We'll talk more about those. When you are putting image into your app, be careful on the size and dimension. You don't want to get a very super big image. For example, this one is very bad. This one is 1600 by 1600. That's too much for the mobile. Okay, your screen is very tiny. Your button is very tiny, so you only need like 120. That's pretty much most of the size that you need. When you get a larger image, it's going to take a lot of resources. Okay, don't do it. All right. So we'll talk more about those later. But here, let me choose a good size. This one is fine, 256, 256. So search icon. And again, very simple. Copy this, put that into your resource folder, drawable, paste it here. And always choose this one. All right, don't do the other one. I'm going to talk about what that means. All right, so now you have this icon. And then for your button, you can start to put your icon right here. Why is not showing up? Or is it background? I might be wrong. Is background? No, it's probably because of the image. Because when I switch to the other, that one works. So what's wrong with that image? Yeah, something wrong with the image. Let me try this again. Let's actually find another one. Phone icon. That's weird. Let's see. Let me run the app and see. Sometimes the video editor doesn't render things correctly. Oh, something's wrong. Let me see. Oh, yeah, so that's why. So just be careful. When you name all the files, you can't use dash. You have to use underscore. okay, for Android. So that's a problem. So you have to rename this. All right, underscore works, and that's why underscore. All right, so I'm going to change back to the search. All right, so that's how it works. But you can see if you put like a big font, a big size of image like 256, it's actually huge. All right, and then if you want to make it smaller, you either use a smaller image, or as I told you, you constrain the height of this image by using linear layout, by using weight, or you hard code something. That all works. All right, but if you don't control it, if you just say that wrap content, it's going to try to wrap content with all the space available. All right, so for the image, always be careful on the actual size. Okay, so let me try this. All right, and again, so if you can do like 100 dp by 100 dp, that's going to solve the problem. All right. There are a scale type. Yeah, you can also do a scale type for that image. So for example, right now you can see when I do 100 by 100, it's smaller than the actual image size, but we can scale down the image if you choose the scale type to be fit XY, and that's going to work. Right? And another thing you might notice is this. So the background here is still gray. All right? So you can change it. There's some property called a background. And then for that, you can actually change it into transparent. So I believe that one is color. I forgot. So just Google Android transparent color. Set transparent background. It's this one. All right, so just copy this one here. Is that gonna work? Let me try it. Nope. Yeah. So what is the transparent background? You can always do white, but there is a yeah, this one. This one looks more promising. So you can do Android. Yeah, that one works. So that will turn the background of the button into transparent. So that looks better. All right, you can still click on that. All right, so this is the button. And then to use the button, it's actually use the same approach. You can do the on-click listener because the image button is one type of button. All right, so that's the image button. In fact, for the button, you can do exactly the same thing. You can still put source, you can still put background. I guess there's some difference between the two. Okay, I can't remember. But maybe one thing is this one, I don't think you can put any text. For the other one, you might be able to put both image and a text. So for the regular button. So regular button probably is more useful than image button. But you should know that you can put image on top of buttons. All right. This button is pretty simple. And then other thing, let's just show this pretty quickly. Switch is a kind of a toggle type of thing. Okay, so let's try it. So I'm going to go back here. Let's add a switch. Wrap content. All right, so that's a little switch you can see. And then you can turn that on and off. All right, so I'm going to give an ID here. Switch. Button. Well, I'm going to call it switch test. All right, and then we can put a little text to show it on and off. Right? So text view, text, switch. Right now is off. Right? And then you can put them into the same row by using another linear layout. Just try to review what we talked about last time, and then make the orientation to be horizontal, and then this tool gets inside this container. All right, and then you can add a little bit margin on the left, 20 dp. All right. So every time when I click on the switch, it's going to change the text. So give an ID for the text view. So switch status text view. All right. Back to main class. All right. So here I have two more text view. Switch text view, and then I have a switch. And then in my code, first thing I need to do is give the reference. Switch text view will be font view by ID. And the second one is switch text will be font view by ID, and then switch text. All right. Once you have this, we can start to initialize that. And basically, you need a listener on the switch. So switch test, click on dot, and I think it should be something called set switch set checked. Let me double check or add. Yeah, I think it's set checked. Every time when you check it or not. Let's try this. Oh, sorry, no, that's set check. That's not the listener. Set all right. You can't remember which one, so let's go ask Google. Android switch change listener. If you Google this, first link, hopefully we can find the answer. Set unchecked listener. Why didn't we see it? Set unchecked change listener. Right, so it's a perfect listener we're going to use. New, this one here. And again, I just want to show you exactly how I'm going to find the answer. I can't remember all of this. This is like been a year since I tried last time. So if you ask me which listener, I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure that for the things like this, it's so easy to find it in Google because there's so many people already try to do the same thing. All right. So whenever you got here, and then you can say, well, based on the check status, so we can set or switch text view, set text to be switch colon, and depending on your check or not, looks like this B give you that value, right? So if B is true, I'm going to set on. Otherwise, I'm going to do off. Right? Just do this kind of concise way to true. So let's see if that works. So I'm going to run this app. All right, that's a switch little button here. When I click on this, that's on. Click on this, off. All right, very simple. All right. So this one is useful when you try to change the setting, put some information in the form. It's pretty easy to touch in the mobile view. So that's when you need to switch. Right. All right. So what else? We have seek bar. So seek bar is something that you can scroll to change the value. All right, so this is also pretty useful in mobile. So let's see. So seek bar is something like this. This one I'm going to do long match parent that content. So as you can see, this is called a seek bar. Right? As you scroll, we can track the value you're trying to do. So I can put some text views there. So for example, I can do like a minimum value, maximum value, and the current value. Right, so I can do 3 text views. So I will put them in the same row. So I make a linear layout, match parent and wrap content. The orientation should be horizontal, and then from here I got 3 text view. Number 1, I have a minimum value which is 0. So give an ID, minimum text view. Alright, and then I do a current value that's like empty or still start from 0. And then finally I will put a maximum text value which is 100. Alright. So I need to put them into 2N and the middle. So this one, the layout, gravity, go to center. This one, layout, gravity goes to right. It doesn't work because your layout orientation is horizontal. So that's when the things got tricky when you do the, when you try to align them according to our parents. So a few things you can do. One thing you can do is I can make the text view wider to let them to split the whole width. Because right now they're all wrapped content. And then when you apply this gravity, it just doesn't work. Alright? So let me show you how to make it work. So this one I can give a weight. So this one I'm gonna give them the same weight. So this one take 1, your width to be 0 dp. This one also weight is 1, and then your width will be 0 dp. And then the next one is also weight to be 1 with 0 dp. Right now, as you can see, I split them by giving a wider width for them. Right, so that's a little bit better, but they're not centered yet. Especially for this one, I want to center to the center, and in that case, I need to use something called gravity. So that goes to the center, and then this one, I need to make it to the right. So gravity right, that's gonna do the job. All right. So it's a little bit more difficult, but if you use relative layout, let me actually make one more. So this time I'm going to use relative layout. It's super easy to do things like this. All right, so I'm going to copy this text view back here. And then in this case, you can just do wrap content. You don't have to do the gravity. You don't have to do the weight. All right, just show you an example. All right. Right now they're attaching each other, so I can simply say this one go to the parent left, make it true. This one go to the parent center, in parent, make it true. And then this one parent right, make it true, and then it goes there. So it's very convenient. So that's where I found relative layout really used. If you want to specify the location relative to the parents, that's the easiest way to do. But you can do the same thing with linear layout. It just takes a little bit more effort. All right, but now you understand one, stick to it. All right, so I'm gonna keep that. Okay. So back to the code. Right now I got a sig bar. I need to give an ID. So sig bar, and that's it. I think you can also do a maximum value. So maximum value will be 100. So that means if you go all the way to the right, it's going to be 100. All right. So come back to the code. I will need to grab those references. I need my sig bar in my Java code. I need 3 text view, minimum text view, and 2 more. One for maximum, one for current. And then I need to find these references. All right, I'm just repeating this. Sig bar will be font view by ID, r.id, sig bar. And then minimum text view will be font view by ID, r.id, minimum text view. And then maximum will be font view by ID, r.id dot maximum. And then finally current will be find view by ID, r.id, correct. All right. So with all the references, we can start to work on the listeners. All right, so let's try. So seek bar. So whenever you are scrolling it, you can trigger some changes, some events. So let's see what kind of events do we have. Now this time is great. So like you can see the highlighted one, the second one. If you read the name, it's very meaningful. Set on seek bar change listener. That's one we're going to use. New space control space. Just use the first suggestion. And similar to the other text watcher, this one tells you when the program got changed. That's probably the one we're going to use. This is when you start tracking touch, stop tracking touch. This is the moment you touch the seek bar. This is the moment that you release your finger from the screen. So sometimes you might want to say that once you touch the scroll bar, you want to pop up some information. This will be the good event listener to use. But normally we just need this one. This one, as you go, I think this value tells you the current value. So let's try that. So I'm going to say that whenever you change, I want to change the current text view set text to be that value. All right. But be careful. This one takes a string, so you need to turn this into a string. So integer to string instead of passing a integer. So let's try it. All right, so we got a little scroll bar, and as I'm scrolling, as you can see, that value got changed all the way to the right, which is 100, all the way to the left, which is 0. All right, 0 to 100. That's how you can change that value. All right. One interesting about this one is I don't think you can easily change the minimum value. There's no problem. For some reason, you don't have a minimum value, but you have to do some program. For example, if you want like minimum value to be 50, then in your code you have to like set offset to do it. All right, so that's the only thing to be careful. So 0 to maximum. All right, so pretty straightforward. It's all about listener and event you want to capture. What else? Checkbox. All right, pretty easy, but let's just show a couple examples. What would be a good example to show for checkbox? So come back here. We want to do. Let me make this one smaller. It doesn't really look good here. So 50, 50. All right. And then checkboxes. Right. So if you do a checkbox, wrap content, and you can, that's just checkbox. I don't think you can, oh, you can do the text. So the checkbox here, option 1 will be, you know, 1 day shipping, or, you know, shipping insurance. All right, so you can check those. Then this one is really easy. So you can basically give an ID, option 1, checkbox, and then option 2, checkbox. All right. And then let's have another text view to show it. Actually, let's just use the other one. Let's use the previous two, this two, since we're not using the minimum and the maximum, right? So since we're not using it, so I can say this one is something called yeah, I can't come up with an example. Let me just do another one. So text view, wrap content, ID. This one is checkbox result. Right? So checkbox result is going to display whatever you check. Right? Result 1 and result 2. Right? All right. 2 of those. come back to the code. Let me repeat this one more time. All right. Checkbox 1. And 2. And also, you have text view, text, checks, checkbox 1 and 2. All right, come back here, do exactly the same thing. All right, I'm going to tell you a better way to handle this later, but right now I just wanted you to really know the basic development process. It is tedious. That's why I told you if you keep working on Android for after 2 years, you're going to basically repeat the same type of things again and again. All right. All right. And now let's see how to work with checkbox. This one is really easy. Checkbox 1, you can actually have a listener probably on check change listener. Same thing as we did before. Whenever you change it, you're going to say that, well, for the first one, the text checkbox 1 set text will be checkbox 1. Depending on that value, if it's true, we're going to say checked, yes or no, yes and no. All right, and let's do another one for the other. Checkbox 2, 2, and 2. All right, so run this very quick. All right, checkbox. Click on this, yes and no, yes and no. And this one same here. All right, so that's how it works. So pretty basic. All right, so again, we actually only are able to cover a few of those. There are more widgets. So if you go to Android Studio, go to the UI Designer. If you go to here, these are the common ones. Text-related ones. There's so many. Buttons. There are radio button. I have a group. I haven't show toggle button. Widgets. There are so many things. We can't show you all of those, but if you know the process, you got the idea. Okay, you insert that widget, configure the layout, and size, and properties, give it an ID, and put that into your code, grab the reference, and then find the right method to program it based on whatever you need. That's the process. For anything you don't know, go ahead and Google it. You don't have to look up the references. References is not very effective. All right. So one more thing, image view. All right, so this is also pretty important. The image I pretty much already showed you. Okay, so you can insert a image in your screen. All right, so I can do an image view. Running out of space. So let's see. Well, I'm just going to create another layout to show you some of the image view stuff. So I'm going to layout activity main 2. All right, create a brand new activity, and then let's just add a image view. And the image view I already showed you. So the key about image view is using the right size. All right. Whenever you do the image view, you should not just do the wrap content, because when you do wrap content, that means Android will try to determine this dimension for you automatically, which will be based on the actual image size. So for example, if I put a bigger one, and this one 1600. Right, so if I put this one into the button, and put that into drawable, all right, and then image view source, specify that from the drawable folder, search. So it just try to, display as much as they can. I think this one is actually even bigger than the screen, but since you can't really go out of screen, so they try to do some scale. So if I change to the smaller phone, like this one, the side definitely don't have the 1600 pixels, but you can still show it because this layout try to give you everything. So that's why for imagery you can't do the wrap content. You have to know what's the biggest size for an image, or what is the exact size you want to image. So for the image view, you can sometimes do this, like I showed you, if you are pretty sure on how big it is, because if you fix that, then that won't be a problem, right? Or you use a weight to give a certain percent to do it. But then in many cases, the challenge will be you might need a square, but the image you got are not really square, right? Well, got this image. Here. All right, so this time if I do CPP, well, that's what the image looks like. Let me put this a little bit bigger, 200 by 200. All right, so that's my image view. But then because the image is only is a rectangle, so there's no way to automatically put this as a square. That's when you need to use the scale type. You can always cut your image into square. That's going to work. But another solution is called scale type, which I briefly talked about last time. So you can say that I want to center this, and also I want to crop this. What it will do is they will try to scale up the image to make it larger until you can have everything, all the area be covered by the image. Anyway, let me show it. So that's what it looks like. You're actually losing part of the image. Let me come back. So as you can see, previously you can see the trees and then more garage. But then if you do center crop, you can only see the central part. All right. But then this is the quick way for you to scale it and then make it work. Or you can tell, well, don't crop it, just do the fit X and Y. If you do that, so you're not losing any information. The trees are still there, the grass is still there, but as you can see, the ratio is off because you try to fit X and Y. When you try to fit Y, you don't have that much. We have to stretch your image, so it looks kind of weird. So that's not recommended unless it's something very minor. When you scale it, it doesn't look that bad. You have fit center. That's basically what we're trying to do. We just try to fit it. I don't care about the other spaces. We have center. Okay, the center is how to explain this. The center is probably we don't touch your image. I just want to put the image into the center of your image view so that you can cover the whole area without scaling it. You also have matrix X. I don't know what it is, but you can look at the document. Probably not really useful, but the center crop is a good one. All right, so this one keeps the ratio, and also you're not losing too much, and also very. So that's the main thing you need to learn about image view. All right, but then always the best practice is what the dimension or the kind of dimension range in your app. You provide a exact dimension image for it. That's always the best practice. All right, and then that also brings me the next topic, which is when you're trying to dealing with images. All right, for the images, you're going to have the same problem as the pixels. All right, about the compatibility. This is what I talk about scale type. But also, you need to know that for different screens, for different devices, their screen dimension is different. Now, if you think this one, you can provide 200 by 200 image that fits and works really well. But then if I go and find a bigger device, that's not going to work really well. So let me show you an example. Now back here, this one, let's just do a fit. so that you can just do a center, basic face center. Like this image right now, let's say that's the size I want, so it covers a little bit more than half of the screen. But then if I change this one into a really big device, which is a TV, as you can see, it's only like taking 1/4 or 1/5 of the screen, because that's your dimension, that's your size, right? Actually, even if I do wrap content, that probably show the problem better. If I do wrap content, for TV is that like that, and then before the smaller ones, it takes the whole screen because the screen size is smaller. So that's why the image size is going to have an effect. And then even if I do this, you're going to have a totally different experience, right? So what's the solution? Now, in this case, you can't really simply say, well, some kind of DP to help you use the DP to help you solve the problem. That doesn't solve the problem. The solution here is, for the image, you have to provide different sizes. Now, for the smaller screens, you're going to use smaller resolution, smaller dimension. For the bigger screens, you're going to use bigger and larger sizes of images. Right? That's the best practice. And then that's why for the drawable folder here, okay, when you're trying to copy things, you actually sometimes need to provide multiple images. Right? So let me show you an example. Let me first show you a tool. So an Android image generator. All right. So let's say I want to use some kind of icon. I want to use this one, or maybe just the image. I'm going to upload the image, the CPP one. This is just an icon, right? Is there a regular one? Let's see. All right, well, let's just use the launcher icon to show the example. If I do this, right, let's say that's a design. And then once I download this, all right, so it gave me a zip file. If I open the zip file, you'll be able to see that there is a resolution folder, resource folder. As you can see, it has multiple folders. The map, HDPI, MDPI, XHDPI, XSHDPI, and 3XHDPI. And then if you open it, you probably can actually imagine what does that mean. The MDPI, as you can see, is 3 kilobytes, smallest size. But then if I switch to the extra high DPI, that's 8 kilobytes, a lot bigger. And this one is, the largest one, and also takes the most space, because this one is larger, high resolution. So the best practice to use the images is, when you create that image, you have to figure out for each different level in terms of the screen resolution, you need to give the right size and dimension. Right? So that's the best practice. And you have to provide all of this to Android. So when Android run your app, Android will know the type of a device. So for example, if your device is like 7 to 10 inches, they're going to look for something called X. They're called X large. So they're going to use the image provided in this extra HDPI folder. Now, if you're using a smaller file, only 2 to 4 inches, then you're going to use the low DPI images. So Android already classified all the devices. As a developer, you need to provide the same image for different DPI categories. So that guarantees when your app is opening the bigger devices, the higher resolution, a larger size will be applied. That's how Android solved this image compatibility issue. All right. So I just want to show the idea, but I can tell you in practice, probably I don't see you basically cut your image, unless you have a tool. There should be some tool to help you to do that, but generally I don't do it. That's why when you copy the file, I want you to put that drawable folder because it's generic. Just do it. For the first version, don't worry about that. But if your app is going to be public for production, one day you got a pretty serious app, you must take care of that. Otherwise, your app won't look good. And don't underestimate that impact. In Android, you never know who is going to use your app, which country is going to use your app. There are over 10,000 different devices, different type of phones. And if you don't take care of the compatibility, you never know what's going to happen. And your UI could be totally messed up in a different phone. All right? So just be careful about that. So this is for the images, how image can handle the compatibility. All right. So that's the main thing you want to know about images. Right? Other than that, image view doesn't normally we don't use an event. That's mostly for us to display something. All right, but you can still unclick, untouch those kind of things. You can still do it. All right. One more thing that reminds me. All right. So another view pretty useful. It's called web view. All right. So web view in Android is basically a UI that you can load web pages. In other words, this is actually a little tiny browser. So let me show you. So I'm going to create another activity. Activity web. I'm going to use a linear layout. All right, so this time I want to show you how to build a little tiny browser. All right, so I want to do like a little address bar button. You click and then you go to that URL. Okay, so to do that, I need another linear layout here. Match parent, wrap content, and I need two things. First of all, the orientation should be horizontal. I'm going to speed up some of the typing, okay, because I have to repeat a lot of things. So I have a edit text, wrap content, and then I have a button to go. All right. So this one should go much larger. So this one will be, I'm going to use a weight. All right, maybe this one takes the whole weight, and then the button only to show the text. So just go. All right, so that's one way to do it. And I want to add a little bit margin, not much, 5 dp. All right, so this one you do the URL. Type URL here. All right, let me go to a better form. All right, so that's a little the top bar, and then below it, I just need one thing called web view. Match parent. All right, take the whole space. That's it. And of course, let's also add some margin, 5, so that it doesn't touch the border of the screen. And then this one, I'm going to give an ID called web view. This one, give an ID called go button. This one, give an ID called URL edit text. All right, so that's it. Now with that, we can go, I will create a new activity. All right, this time I'm going to do a new activity called web browser activity. Remember the steps of creating a new activity. First of all, you need to extend app compact activity. Secondly, you overwrite that method called onCreate. And then from there, we're going to do the same thing. We have a edit text, URL edit text. We have a button called a go button. We have a web view called web view. And then first thing you need to do, find view by ID to assign the references. All right, so this one is called URL edit text. Go button is this. And then finally web view is this. All right. Now this one is super simple. Basically, whenever you click on go button, so I just need to look at what you have typed here. as long as you have a valid URL. If URL edit text dot get text to string is not empty, that means you type something. I'm going to try to open the page for you. How to open the page? Go web view dot. If you look at the method, this one doesn't have that many methods. Oh, actually it does. So there should be something called load URL. This one here. So if you do this one, and we type that URL, and it will trigger that loading for you. All right, let's try it. Now, this is a new activity, and anytime you add a new activity, go to the manifest file. You need to put it here. Define it. Otherwise, Android doesn't know you have a new activity. Activity, give a name, and that's it. But now, if I try to run the app, it's not going to open my new activity, if you remember, because the other activity has been marked as the main activity, the entrance, right? So, all right, so the same old activity, even though I already coded. So the way to do it is I can move this one, the intent future, which says the main launcher. I'm going to put that one to here. So this one will become the main activity. Something's wrong. All right, so I actually rarely see this one, this time. But remember, whenever you see this, something is wrong, there must be some exceptions. First thing to do, go to the logs, go to the logcat. There has to be something in red. All right, so let's see this. So we're right here, and then look at this message. Attempt to invoke message this on a null object references. So null pointer exception. Let's click on this, and looks like this one is actually null. Right? This button should be already assigned from here, but if that's not work, that basically means we actually missed one line. Set content view r.layout.activity web, because you haven't told activity which is the layout you're going to use. That's why it can't find out this one. All right, so that's the reason. So let me run this again. All right, so this is my browser. I'm going to type. Click on go. Oops, it's not working. Set web page not available. All right. So first you need to check if you are online. All right. Right now, I look at here. It looks like the Wi-Fi is on. All right. And then to make sure the Wi-Fi is working, you can actually go here, open the browser. Oh, right now it's not working. Why is a photo app? Oh yeah, that's photo app. I thought that's a browser. So where is the browser? Sorry, which one? This one? Okay, web view. Okay. Yeah. But now it looks like the Wi-Fi is. All right. So the internet is connected. All right. So there must be something else. So this is the first time we're going to teach you something related with permissions. The reason the app doesn't allow you to open the page is not because your code is wrong, not because your internet is off. It's actually because you haven't asked Android to give you the permission to use the internet. Because for your app, think about your app, using the internet is actually a pretty important thing for the user. Because if the user gave you the permission to let you use the internet, you really literally can do anything you want. You can always send things back to your server or somewhere. Okay, So letting you use the internet, that's a pretty serious thing. By default, Android doesn't give you that permission because they don't know what you're going to do. And if you just build something to try to download the image constantly, you're going to eat the user's data, within an hour. All right, so that's a pretty serious thing. Because of that, any app, when you try to use the internet, you have to declare the permission and ask Android to give you that kind of permission. So that's when you need to use this manifest file again. All right. Whenever you need to get that permission, you need to go to this file at the very top. Do something called a uses permission. From here, it's going to ask you the name of the permission. As you can read all the name of permission, like some of this saying access file location. This is where you got the permission to know the location of your app, like a navigation app. Access network state. This is a permission allows you to know whether your device is connected to the internet or not. Wi-Fi state. We need something called internet. All right. If you ask for this one and then push there, Android knows that you're going to ask for that permission. All right. So now if you run this, click on go. All right, so that's your little browser. Now the internet works. In the debug mode, as long as you request this permission, Android is going to give that to you. But then once you publish your app, the way the permission works is before you install the app, remember Android is going to ask the user, do you allow this app to use this permissions, the list of permissions, so that the user will have a knowledge on what this app is trying to do here. Sometimes you see a simple app ask you tons of list, like access your contacts, access your location, access this storage, all of this. It looks very scary. So that's how Android gives users the ability to be aware of all these potential risks. All right, so the permission, this is the very first time we're going to use it. So internet permission, you will need that very, very often. Some other permission, like using the location, that's very important. Using the camera, that's also very important. You have to request that permission. All right, but here it's just a little browser. It's a full functional browser. Okay, so if you click on anything, you will be able to interact with that. If not, then you have to basically change something. There's something about the browser, maybe the JavaScript, those stuff. Oh yeah, also, and then if you click on this, it automatically direct you back to the other browser. So there are something you can do to change that behavior. All right, but this browser is actually a full functional browser. It looks very simple, but it has everything provided by the OS. You use the same the browser kernel as the other browsers are using. So that's why I also want to mention that this web view is actually pretty powerful. Okay, so you can actually do a lot of things here. Like when I was back in Amazon, the very first version of that Fire browser called Amazon Silk, we were actually using the same one as I just demoed, the web view, to do the main browser view. The main changes we made were to do the new UI, like this address bar, the buttons, the tabs. We worked on that one and also some of the backend feature. The core part of the browsing feature actually comes from the web view. We didn't write any line of code, so it just relied on that Android web view. And then knowing web view, I'm not really asking you to always build a browser. There's no need to build a browser. But web view can do a lot of things for you. In many cases, if you find that you want to render something that's very complicated to render in the regular Android UI components, then you might want to think about web view. Sometimes it can give you a better and easier solution. So one point we were doing this application. So we were working on this app. I actually briefly mentioned about this app. It was a research project that we try to help the diabetes patients, mostly the teenagers, to help them to manage their health. So we built this app that allows them to input some information, to take a picture of what they eat every day, the events they did, and then also the location they've been to every day. So that we track their activities, we give them feedback on whether they're doing well or not. At one point, we want to decide to do this little graph called rewards, so that you can see, the rewards you want to do, and so that's the basic idea of the app. So when we start this app, we faced a very big question, because we want to support both Android and iOS. And then we were thinking, now which one, what's the best development approach to do? We can of course always do a two separated development, one for Android, one for iOS. But then we also know that you can actually use some of the frameworks to build, like to write code once and then generate both platforms. We were kind of debating, and then eventually we decided to go with the native way, because the app is pretty straightforward. It doesn't take us too much effort to build even two versions. We have developers to do it. But then one decision we were really thinking hard was this kind of reward view, because we know that this kind of a graphics is not really easy to do in either Android or iOS. And also, it's even more difficult to make them look the same. The rest part are simple. If you want to use this thing, you can also do it in iOS. We can always make that happen. But for that graphics, unless we implement our own library to render it, it will be very difficult to make it the same. So we were asking the team who actually requested to do this app. So tell us how much you need to build for this reward. So if you just need something very simple like that, just a bar chart, we might be able to do it in two platforms. With worst case, we just implement a library by ourselves to render it. However, if you're going to ask us a lot more sophisticated graphs and visualizations, we have to rethink about it, because we may not have effort to build two libraries, one for iOS, one for Android. We need to think about something else. And then they told that, this is very simple. Don't worry about that. We just need this two-bar chart to show the 2 weeks reward. So because of that, we decided, okay, let's make two separate developments, one for Android, one for iOS. Even for that part, we can just fund and do our best to try to implement it. And then once we released the app a month later, then they start to use and then give it to some of the research patients. And then they got some really good feedback, especially from the reward part, because that's where they can get the motivation. That's where they can learn how well they're doing. And then after that, the team actually came back and started asking us, oh, can we add more graphs? So they actually redesigned the app. They told, well, can you do something to track their glucose and then track the carbs they eat every day. All the activity, I want to show like a visualization and then a nice graph there. All right. So that put us into a very bad position, because it will be very difficult to implement all of those visualizations. Not just going to be the bar chart, they have the line chart, they have the pie chart, they have all kinds of visualizations. Very fancy. There's no way we can actually implement it for two platforms. All right. And eventually we find out the solution. Well, because we find there are some actually very nice web platform libraries that allow you to draw these graphs in the web browser. Google has something called the Google Chart. There are a lot of other options, but they are Java-based, JavaScript-based, and then you can do that in the web browser. And then we decided we will use those libraries to draw this visualization, but in our app, we're going to load that visualization into a web view, so that we kind of solve that problem. All right, so we basically, this is the kind of the view we built. It looks pretty nice in the app, but in fact, it's actually in the web browser. It's a web page. We basically use the JavaScript, the Google chart, to implement some of these charts, and then both apps will load the page by using the web view. And even though you can't really tell, but when you start to interact with the web view, it's not as responsive as the regular native component. But it's kind of solved that problem, because a big benefit is now we only need to implement this once, and then both platforms can use that page. All right. So keep this example in mind. Sometimes if you have something very complicated, very hard to implement it on the phone, you might want to think more web platform, and especially if you need two different support, platform support, both Android and iOS. All right. And also because of that, a lot of the frameworks exist that allows you to build, let me step back a little bit, allows you to build a web kind of application and then generate two platforms for you. So one of the most famous frameworks is called PhoneGap. Not sure anyone used that. That exists like 5 years ago. So you can build a website, or web page app, and the PhoneGap can actually wrap that into an app and then build both Android and iOS app for you. But the app itself is actually essentially just a website. They just added like a little skin at the border and make it as an app, but essentially it's just website. All right. But then the next topic when I talk about web is this decision. All right. So even though we're teaching you mobile application development, we're teaching you Android, and some of you also are interested in iOS development. But then today, you actually have a better option. 4 or 5 years ago, when everybody was talking about the mobile app was the most popular, and not just because the phones are good, everyone are interested about the mobile apps, but also the reason was at that time the web browsing experience on the mobile phones was very bad. All right, so the internet was slow, the rendering was bad, the speed was bad, the mobile browser was not as powerful as the desktop browser, and a lot of the library that works in the desktop browser doesn't work well in the mobile browsers. And also you have to take care of a lot of mobile responsibility issues. So at that time, the web application sucks in the web browsers in mobile. So most of the time people were deciding to do the actual native app development. That was a trend 4 or 5 years ago. But in the recent years, there has been a lot of development on the mobile web browser, a lot of development on the mobile JavaScript libraries, some other optimizations, so that you can actually build a really nice experience using the mobile browser. All right, let me see some of this. Like this one here is one I found called Discovery VR. It has a pretty complicated, experiences, and then also just by looking at the UI, it actually looks even better than a mobile app. All right, so you can do a lot of those today with just a browser. And also recently there is another. Yeah, this is the one I talked about, the PhoneGap. This is the very old one. All right, this is very bad. If you see the apps built by PhoneGap, it's not attractive at all. But 2 or 3 years ago, Facebook, they open sourced this project called React Native. That really changed the whole game. That's actually, they claim that the Facebook app has been made by React Native. So think about the Facebook app you've been using, either in iPhone or Android phone. It's very, very good. All right. But then they are developed by using React Native, which means they're not really using the Android Studio I'm teaching you right now. They wrote JavaScript. They wrote React Native JavaScript code to build the app first, and then they have an engine to generate the apps for both platforms. So the idea is the same. You only write the code once, you get both platforms. And then the really cool part about this tool is they really gave you a native experience. All right, they use a different way to generate it. They actually generate the real code for your project so that the app being generated for each platform is real native experience. So this one right now is super, super popular because if you know this one well, it really saves you the efforts. You only do the coding once, and then you guarantee to have exactly the same experience for both platforms. Otherwise, you have to do 2 separate development, and there is no guarantee you can make them exactly the same. So with all of this tool today, the web application started to get more popular. You can either do a mobile web, or you can use the web technology to do something like this. So you do not have to write the native applications on the mobile phones. So right now there actually is a big debate, not really a debate. If you look at native apps and also the web-based apps, they both have advantages and disadvantages. All right, native app, you still get the best experience. You can use all the features, but there are really big downside about native apps. Number one, you have to do extra development. You have to maintain the compatibility. You have to make sure the app looks the same, and it costs more engineer to work on it. But then I think the biggest problem about the mobile app today is nobody are downloading new apps. very hard to convince people to download new apps on their phones. All right. And then if you say, well, you have to download this app, probably you won't try it today, unless it's something really, really important. However, on the other side, for web applications, if you make it a website, then you don't have any problem downloading it. Just type the link, scan the QR code, and just open it, and it works. All right. So that's the easiest way you can get the traffic. That's, I would say, the biggest advantage. It's so easy for people to use. And also, the web application supports all the platforms because it's running in the browser. That means you can do it not only in the phone, but also the tablet, but also laptop computer, desktop computer, it all works. But for mobile app, it only works on the phone. All right. And then for the web application, you only need to do one development. That's it. Right. There are a lot of libraries to help you to make it a mobile responsive. You put a little bit extra effort, but you make it compatible to all devices. So the recent years, you can tell this one is getting more and more popular. All right. However, when you are trying to make an application, you as the designer and developer have to make the very critical decision. All right. Especially you don't have a lot of resources. If you're a big company, you don't worry about that. You can always do any. You can even do all of those because you have the engineers work on that. But if you only have one or two people, you have to decide how are you pursue this idea. If you don't feel comfortable of getting two separated development, you don't have the effort and time, then probably doing a web application, that's probably a better decision. All right. And also, I think the whole decision depends on how familiar you are with each technology, which one you want to learn, and also it depends on the features. If your app does very straightforward features, I think either way is fine because especially a native app, it doesn't take you too much effort to do. But if your app that has some of the very special things, like some of the computation algorithms, some of the visualization stuff, just like the example I showed you, you should think about, do you know how to do it in a native app? Or do you know how to do it in a web application? All right, so you need to make a lot of decisions based on that. So, but there is no right or wrong answer. It's just which one fits better for the project you're working on, fits better for the problem you're trying to solve. All right, but this is something you should keep in mind when we start talking about the mobile, the web view today. All right. So React Native. All right. So if you're interested, you can take a look at this. We can actually show you a demo. I haven't do that since last year, but that's pretty much the code. All right. So this is the JavaScript. It's not a standard JavaScript. This is the very new version of the JavaScript. It looks very like Java. You have a class, you have a method to render it, and then they said that this one there's some like showcase step like apps. Facebook, they said this made by React Native. Instagram also same. There are other things, Tesla app, Uber app, Skype app. I don't even know it's true or not, but since they put it here, probably true. All right, so at least for most part of those, they're then using React Native. The reason this big company want to do this is because it guarantees a kind of a exactly the same experience, and also it saves a lot of the development efforts. All right, so think about this. But then I tried to build something using React Native. The part I really don't like. Number one, this one has a more challenging learning curve, a bigger learning curve, because this whole language takes you some time to get used to it. JavaScript, and also a very special type of JavaScript. I don't really like it. It seems to be too much for me to learn, especially if you're already comfortable with Java, everything. Number two, because this is actually a third-party tool, neither Apple or Google is officially supporting this. It's basically maintained by Facebook, so there's a lot of limitations. You never know, one day they're going to shut down the whole React Native apps. That's also possible. But also, you do not have a good IDE support. You can only type it in the text editor, and the debugging process, the error message is not really as good as the native development. So this is a downside about React Native. But if you can pass that learning curve, this is actually a very good tool. This one you can always do things very quickly, and then you've got two versions instantly. That's really, really nice. All right. So just want to talk a little bit more about the whole web. That's the idea. Okay, so for the images, you have to provide different sets. Right? Let me see anything else. All right, I guess let's take a break. Now we have a slightly different topic to show you after this.